A very good evening to Mr. Ismail, our moral lecturer, and also to my fellow colleagues and classmates. My name is Eldad Wongzen E, and I am from Group 3, and I will be presenting for our moral topic today, Understanding Mental Health. So let's start with the definition and the background. What is mental health? According to the World Health Organization, WHO, mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, is able to cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work productively, and is also able to make a contribution to his or her community that they feel proud of. And let's now move on to the investigations of why people suffer from mental health, or why do people get diagnosed with mental health, which can come in different forms, which is anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and so on. Now, based on our investigation, it can be categorized into four main problems. A, having a poor support system. B, social problems. C, financial problems. And D, biological factors. Let's start with A, having a poor support system. Now, having a poor support system can come in three different ways. Child neglect when we were children, child abuse, and also having no family or friends for support system. These three are very important, and if these three comes in a lack of proficiency, we will have a higher chance of suffering from mental health. Let's start with child neglect. Child neglect is basically having a bad parenthood, bad parenting. For example, our parents, like father or mother, probably did not have the time to give us the attention that we need as children, did not have enough time to teach us about discipline and so on how to cope with these stresses in life. And so we end up growing not knowing how to handle these different situations. And this leads to depression. This leads to having us think a lot, giving us anxiety. The second one is child abuse. Child abuse is when our parents or our teachers, it can be anyone, an adult, abusing us in many different forms. The simplest example can be when we do something wrong, instead of telling us and educating us that we did something wrong, they instead resort to physical violence where they take a whip or a cane and hit us with it. And that will cause us to have a problem in our brain development as we grow up. And the third one can be having no family or friends to support us. It is very important, if we know for a fact that we are suffering from depression, we have to have a good support system. We have to have someone to talk to share our problems with. And not having that support system is very crucial, and it can lead us to be worse. The second one is having social problems. Here are a few examples. Being bullied at school, being sexually harassed or abused in the past, can be from anyone, by the way, from our uncles or our fathers, and substance and alcohol abuse, as well as having bad influence from friends. Now, most of these social problems is by not having enough discipline, as I personally believe. For example, having bad influence from friends. Most of the time, we are being peer pressured into doing things that we actually do not want to do. But because we want to fit in, we end up doing things that we are not proud of, and this will lead us to, in the future, to keep constantly feel guilty about it, and this leads to depression. Third one is having financial problems. Now, according to a survey done by the Center in 2020, almost half of the respondents reported experiencing mental health issues during the COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of the Movement Control Order, otherwise known as MCO, by the Malaysian government, where many citizens lost their jobs and income. For a total of 542 respondents out of 1,084 respondents, the survey also showed that adults aged 25 to 34 years old, females, with the ethnicity of Malay, otherwise known as Bumiputra, and the Central States, having the highest percentage of having a negative well-being during MCO. Now, what we can know about this is that this is a common cause, or otherwise can be seen as a financial problem. And because, especially right now in the middle of a pandemic, many people have been unemployed. Many people are having trouble coming up with the monthly bills, and a lot of people these days are looking to the bank loans, otherwise known as, or ARC loans, otherwise known as the sharks. And what these bank loan does is that we borrow a certain amount of money and they give us the money, but in exchange we have to pay it back in a certain amount of time with abnormal interest rates, and that leads us to more debt. And when we are in debt, what we resort to? Gambling. Exactly, we resort to gambling, and that leads us to more financial problems, and all of this leads us to having anxiety. All of this leads us to having paranoia and depression. And the next one, which is the last one, is biological factors, which can be genetics, having brain defects or injury, having an imbalanced neurotransmitters, or prenatal damage. Genetics can basically means being passed down from generation to generation, which is actually a fact. We can be more prone to suffering from mental health due to our genetics. For example, if you know for a fact that your grandmother suffers from depression, it can be skipped a generation and passed it down to you, and so on. You are more prone to suffering or to suffer from depression. Next is having brain defects or injuries. For example, having a problem with the way we think, which causes us to have schizonephria and so on. This is also a common cause of imbalanced neurotransmitters. And the last one is prenatal damage. Prenatal damage is basically means our brains were damaged, or something in our heads went wrong when we were kids. It could be from our parents carrying us and accidentally dropped us and causing us to hit our heads against the floor. That can also be a cause of prenatal damage. Now, with all of this that has been done and said, what can we do about this? What is the solution? And as a matter of fact, our government has acknowledged that mental health is an important issue to be discussed. Hence, they created the Mental Health Act in 2001. And the Mental Health Act 2001 is a law that focuses on two main things. One is to promote a high standard and good practices in the delivery of mental health services. And the second one is to protect the interests of people who have been involuntarily admitted to an approved center. And besides the interventions that has been done by the government, there are also NGOs, also known as non-government organizations. For example, the first one being MIASA, which is Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association. And we can call this number 019-236-2423 at any moment, given whether you are suffering from the mental illness or you know for a fact that your friend or someone in the streets are suffering from mental illness. Do not hesitate to call this number as well. And the next non-government organization is MMHA, also known as the Mind Hub Malaysian Mental Health Association. And also they have a hotline number, which is 03-2780-6803. And the third one is Befriends Kuala Lumpur, which is a non-government organization that is focused mainly in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor. And they have the hotline number, which we can call 24/7, which is 03-762722929. With that being said, do not hesitate to call these hotline numbers given any situation if you are suffering from mental illness. And what these non-government organizations do is that they focus on four main things. The first one being treatment. They focus on care and rehabilitation. See, for most people, when they suffer from depression, what they commonly feel is that they feel like they have been segregated from society. So the main thing to focus on when you are put into non-government organization care, their activities and programs firstly focuses on giving you care and try to rehabilitate you, which is trying to get you back into society. And what they can do by this is by making you participate in community-based activities and also prevention, which is preventing you from suffering from this, preventing you from doing things that will cause you to relapse into mental illness. The third one is research and training. What these NGOs do is that they research on why people suffer from mental illness, and then they provide you with the appropriate training that you need. And the fourth being advocacy and empowerment, which basically means making you feel confident in what you do. And with all these are the activities that NGOs do in helping people with mental health into going back to society. That is all from me.